Views and opinions expressed on the following program are those of the hosts and guests, and not necessarily those of the staff or management of alltalkradio.net.
Standing at the door, looking back at life as it's been before, holding on to things that might have been, knowing that this day will never come again, as my spirit's guiding me to a place where I am free to be all that I can be.
And welcome to Soul Chat. I'm Jane McGuire.
And I'm Elena Risto, and there's nothing on.
Right, there
now
we go. Now we're
go.
live. All right.
So they've heard the song? Oh, wow.
So we
are. We're here.
We go.
We've been through a time warp.
A little bit, right? At least a 4-minute time warp.
Yeah.
Let's do the time warp.
Okay,
again.
fine.
Yeah. I'm not the singer here.
No, I'm not today either. So there you go.
Right, just for today.
Just for today. I'm not singing today. Yeah.
Well, welcome to Soul Chat. And before we get into our show, we do have Eric Peters on again.
Howdy.
So, what did we learn this week? You start.
Because you started last week, right?
Right.
Yeah, fine. Am I over far enough, George? Well, I just actually today was kind of the cap on it. I've had Jane's been through this with me already this morning, but I have an eye condition that flares up every once in a while. It's nothing more. It's a nuisance more than anything, and it can be painful. And it flared up on me at about 2 or 3 in the morning, and what I realized during the day while I was working with this, and you had mentioned it, and a couple other things had come up as well, is that I really need to focus. I really want to focus on how do I want to do things? How do I want to, and it's a right side, because it's my right eye, and it's
Isn't that the feminine side?
No, it's the masculine.
That's masculine
It's
side.
how it's the giving. It's the putting energy outside, and the feminine side is the receiving side. So right is masculine, left is receiving. So it's really been about how do I want to do things now? How do I want to, what's this mix of that I've got going in my life? Because I've kind of had 3 separate paths that I keep popping over. And how do I make them all come together? But I keep getting these messages. You need to focus on yourself for a while. You need to pour energy into yourself to figure this out. And I know a lot of people say, well, what does that look like?
Well, but also let's flip that a little bit. I think that's very hard for people in the healing field to do because we're so used to giving, and you yourself have a history of being the caretaker. And I think it's a hard thing to sit there and balance that without going into, wow, am I being selfish if I focus on what I want?
I think that's the top level, but I also think that being the great caretaker and making sure everybody's taken care of before I do something, that was based on a lifetime of my value was tied to how much I could help people fix things.
And that has actually come up in your life in the last couple of days.
Yeah, it really has. And so I'm just, it's going to be about focusing. So I'm really looking forward to next Monday when I'm on the airplane and I'm out of here for 2 weeks, and I'm not, I'm not going to be answering phone calls. I'm not going to be doing any kind of client work. I'm not going to be doing any kind of singing. Well, I may end up singing a little bit, but it'll be fun.
Yeah.
It's more about taking a break. But there is that thing about, and we've talked about it, and we talked about it with you this week.
Yeah.
Putting your gas mask on first.
Yeah.
Before you put it on other people.
Yep, I got to keep looking for masks. That's absolutely right.
Yep. So, and trusting that they're out there. So it's like an ongoing process. So stay tuned, because I think things are going to change for me. I think I'm going to create something different.
I know what I've seen is a lot of, we've talked the last couple of weeks about the planetary alignment with Uranus coming into direct, and how all of a sudden a lot of people are realizing they have to let go of a lot of stuff, and it seems to be very, very sudden for them. I've learned working this last week. I've done a lot of different things, and one of the things that has been a reminder for me, it's not always in my timing. You know,
Yeah.
and it's been especially that with attending different events with Eric. You know, we went down to Boulder City. I left work early on Friday, and we were right on time until there was an accident on 215. So then we were letting people know that, you know, he's going to be late and all that kind of stuff. And actually, he got a lot of support down in Boulder City, but it was not in my timing. When I got here, I wanted everything to happen with everybody and all this other stuff. And it's been this process of, no, Jane, you have to wait. And that's just not an easy thing.
You know, I did do some client work last night, and I think I did tell you about it a little bit, that it was with someone that is dealing with grief.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a very short time period that we're into this. As far as grief goes, there's no menu.
Right.
There's no menu for grief.
Right.
It takes what it takes. It
Right.
can take years. It can take. I've never seen anything less than a couple of years.
Well, and
You know.
people on my Facebook know what's been going on with my family. I don't want to get too much into it just because I
Right.
want to afford those people that level of privacy.
Yeah.
But
there's
that's something else I've been kind of processing as well.
Yeah, and there is a timing to it, and understand that time is here. It's
Yeah.
not on the other side. So as far as spirit is concerned, it just takes what it takes.
Right.
It's not about whether they've got it in a short period of time. That's the American way, or that's the Western way, or
Right,
whatever that
right,
is.
right.
You know, that's Kairos time instead of Chronos time. you know?
Right.
So it's an interesting thing to just sit back and understand. And I was just talking on the phone today with someone who referred me to this person last night, and I said, you know, all you can do is deliver the information.
Yeah.
And hand it off and say, this is what I have. This
Wait.
is what I have to give, and take what sticks with you. And if nothing else does, then throw it away.
And-
Or
yep.
put it away for another time when it makes more sense.
And sometimes
Yeah.
doing the work that you and I do, it is just about, like you said, giving that information, and then for us not being attached to
Right.
outcome.
Right.
And realizing that people are going to come in again in their time, not
Right.
necessarily in my timing or in your timing. They're gonna show up when they're ready.
And I think it's real prevalent, even more prevalent. I mean, you see it. It's a better example when you look at grief, because grief will take its time.
It will absolutely will.
And
Yeah.
I've heard, especially with friends of mine who were widowed at a pretty young age, they will say that they'd be going along 3 years down the road thinking everything was fine, then all of a sudden,
Boom, a trigger.
boom,
Yeah.
something would happen and they'd just be out of it
Yeah,
again.
I've had clients that
Yeah.
have put off having new romantic relationships for the better part of 20 years because they're still grieving that last one.
Yeah.
And they ask me why am I not able to bring somebody in? And I tell them, because you're still grieving, you've got to go through that process.
Mm-hmm.
So because it's very difficult to love somebody when you're still grieving.
And the same thing is true for the good things that happen in our life.
Right, we're
Why
not
is
supposed to
this-
stay in that either.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
it's easy to be philosophical about the bad things, but the good things. Well, this should be happening now. You know,
Right.
I'm ready. Why isn't this
Right,
here?
because it may be somebody else, of course, in the grand design. You're waiting for somebody else to do
Yeah.
something. So, all right, Eric, what did you learn this week?
This week I learned that I need to control my anger about certain topics. I
Okay.
know that I do jump the gun a lot.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if a certain situation happens, I tend to think the worst of every situation before I think of the best.
Yeah.
And
I've never done that.
Oh, you used to say that to me a year ago, Jane. You always
Yeah.
go to worst case scenario.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've never done that.
I mean, noticing it and actually doing it is
It is.
huge open,
It-
like an eye opener
yes.
for me.
That's
Yes.
one of the biggest things that
Yeah.
a lot of people struggle with, is getting that.
Is
You know,
noticing
because you
it.
can say, "Oh, I'm going to change this," and then actually doing it is a whole other thing.
Right.
So
Yeah.
good for you.
Right.
Yeah,
That's
definitely.
really
yeah,
good for
that
you.
is a good thing.
Yeah, I mean, I have nothing to thank but for you guys,
Oh.
the girls.
I haven't even
thank
worked-
you.
I haven't even
worked with him yet.
Just
Right?
wait. That'll
yeah,
be
no
good.
kidding.
Yeah, well, you know, the hospitality and opening up to me, and you know, kind of opening your environment to myself. You know, I do appreciate that. So
There's a brightness about you that wasn't there a week ago.
Yeah.
I can see it.
Yeah.
She's been around you all the time,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I can see it.
Yeah.
yeah,
know?
Jane's definitely been helping me out, and
Yeah.
I talk to her every night and talk about the good and the bad about my day,
Mm-hmm.
and you know, everything that I'm thinking about, and she puts it in a way where I could think about it positively.
Yeah.
So.
And on that note, you're actually going to be speaking at the VA hospital on Thursday.
Yes, possibly. We'll see.
Oh, possibly. Okay.
We'll see.
So that seems to be opening up. So a lot of people that were not able to get to Eric earlier for appearances are now starting to come in and say, "Okay, we'd like you to speak."
Oh, that's good.
Yeah,
So,
I'll be
it's
staying here
exciting.
till Christmas too. Or
Yeah.
actually New Year's
Yep.
Day.
Yep.
Yep.
So
Really cool.
so that's all exciting. So speaking of Christmas, let's segue into that.
So the thing about Christmas, of course, Ashley, because it's Christ Mass, right?
Right.
That's the Catholic. That's
Yes.
the Christian Roman Christians when they came into the pagan world.
Right.
Right. As actually, they picked the 24th, but the real
See, they still
holiday-
can't get the
they
timing
can't get
right.
the timing right. The actual day that there was a celebration in the pagan world was the winter solstice,
Right.
Which we're going to be doing an event.
I'm
this
really
Sunday.
looking forward to that.
Yeah,
and
me
so
too.
go ahead and promote that right
yeah,
now.
yeah, it's going to be at Karma Connection. What is the
Woohoo!
address? Do you know
Where
the
I work.
address?
It is on. I think it's 76.
You work there.
I know I do, but it's on Rainbow and Warm Springs, and it's I think 7630 or 7680. And Tracy, if you're listening, feel free to call in and correct me.
Yeah.
So it's on Warm Springs and Rainbow,
Right.
next to the Money Tree and Palm Beach Tan.
It's in between.
Exactly,
The two of them.
in
Yeah.
between. And you're going to be doing the summer solstice, or I'm sorry, winter
not
solstice.
summer.
Well, if
Maybe
we're not
s-
in Australia. We're not in
Right,
Australia.
Winter solstice.
Right, the
Yeah.
winter solstice, and that's going to include a drum circle?
Yeah, I don't know yet.
Yeah,
Well, I'm
yeah.
figuring it out. I'll probably hand some of that stuff out. It's a celebration.
Right.
And the thing about the winter solstice is that, again, here's that thing about time. That time wasn't actually, we didn't have time zones until we got modes of transportation that had to have common time so people knew when to show up at the station, when to meet it, and that kind of thing. The winter solstice is when the sun is at its
lowest.
It's lowest.
It's lowest, and the day is the shortest of the year.
The day is the shortest of the
Yeah.
year. And then it turns, and from December 21st, then all of a sudden the days start getting longer
Mm-hmm.
again. So in the pagan world, this was a time of reflection. This was a time
Right.
of wisdom. This
What's-
is a time of being grateful for everything that had happened, that had been learned in the previous life cycle.
Well, it's also, though, about Mother Earth kind of going to sleep. The animals, the bears hibernate, the trees.
Well, depending on
lose-
the hemisphere.
Well, true, but the
Right.
the trees, go dormant. The grass, all that stuff goes dormant.
But
so
it's not. But again, it depends on the hemisphere because that's not what's happening on the bottom side of the world.
right. Well, we can't control that.
Well,
they're not going to show up on Sunday.
So Mother Earth is really it's a time of change. It's a
Mm-hmm.
time it's a good time of change. And in this hemisphere, it is about reflection and wisdom.
Mm-hmm.
It is about understanding what did I just learn through this whole growth cycle
Right.
because once it turns and the sun starts getting it's a physical thing.
It is.
Once the sun starts getting longer, the days start getting longer.
Mm-hmm.
Now we have more light. Now the growing season is coming. So it's a good example of energy because it's not just a date.
Right.
It's when the
It's
energy
actual-
is and there's some of the ethers from either side
Right.
on both of it. So
Right.
so that's what we're doing. So that's the winter solstice and then
And what time does that start on
we're
Sunday?
going to start at 5:30.
I think,
Come
yeah,
at
'cause-
5:30 people can mill around and talk
Right.
and we're going to have a few goodies.
And so, how do people RSVP to this? Because space is
We got
limited.
to send out an invitation.
Right. So you can go to the Karma Connection Facebook page and
Right.
RSVP there, and maybe even on our Facebook page on Soul Chat.
Does she? Yeah, we can send out an invite there.
Yeah, yeah.
So we'll get something out in the next day or so people can come and
Yeah.
and I'm always sending out stuff. So if you're on my email list or my texting list, you'll
Right.
get something.
Or if you're on our Soul Chat or a Facebook
Yeah.
page, there will be something about it. Or Karma Connections.
So the winter solstice, that's a big time of year, and that was adopted when the Roman Catholics, the Roman Christians, whatever you want to
With
call
the
them,
Roman Catholics. Yeah.
came in to the pagan lands. They wanted the pagans to be enticed to come over to the Christian
Sure.
side of things, so they started adopting some of their
Sure.
rituals. They started adopting some of their dates.
Right.
So all of that came into play.
Right.
And then how Santa Claus got into it, it's very interesting.
Right, because
So-
I looked up the Catholic version, the Christian version of this,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't have it memorized. So Saint Nicholas was actually a saint, a true saint. And let's just, for those of you that are not Catholic, the saints are people that are canonized by the Catholic Church and having lived a
There's criteria
holy-
that they have to meet.
Yeah,
There's things
miracles
like
have to be
miracles and-
attributed to them. They have to have had an
I
impact.
clean my house. That's a miracle.
That is a miracle.
That is,
That's a
yeah.
very good miracle. Yeah. So that's the saint of cleanliness, right? Right. So I'm almost done unpacking, and that's a miracle.
Oh yeah, that
yeah,
really is.
that's
yeah.
a huge miracle.
Yeah.
And Stephanie did the dishes. That's another miracle.
So yeah, I don't see that canonized, but okay.
No. We
So
aren't
go
going
on,
for sainthood.
Go on. So Saint Nicholas.
So St. Nicholas was born in 280 AD. So not long, 200 years after the death of Jesus. And he was born in Patara, a city of Lycia in Asia Minor. And he became the gift giver in that.
So I still want to know where Asia Minor is.
Well,
You know
George
where that is,
can look that up. I'd say it's next to Asia Major.
She's
George-
got a whole
George
rock
can
song
Google that.
going in her head.
I've got no clue where it's at.
Yeah, Asia Minor. I'm guessing it's got to be like the Middle East.
Probably,
guessing,
because there are
yeah,
parts of the
somewhere around that.
there are parts of the East that are part of Europe, part of India, part of Asia. So, and that's from 7th grade geography class. So I hope that my
That's good
teacher
memory
doesn't.
retention.
Yeah. Hopefully, I'm right. If I'm wrong, feel free to call in at 6702-609-7626. If I'm right, don't bother calling in.
Yeah. Well, you want him to call in to tell you you're right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it says here that he was a Christian priest who later became a bishop, and he traveled around the country giving gifts of money and other presents to
He thinks I can
children.
read this.
And he would give the presents at night because he did not want his identity known. And one of the stories attributed to St. Nicholas is about a poor man that had no money to give to his 3 daughters on their wedding day. So St. Nick dropped bags of gold into the stockings which the girls had left to dry by the fire. The sisters then found gold, and ever since then children have hung up stockings on Christmas Eve, hoping that they would be filled with presents by Christmas morning.
Okay, here it is. Asia Minor is a geographic region in the southwestern part of Asia comprising most of what is present-day Turkey.
Okay. Well, and that's, supposedly Turkey's also the landing place
The land of Haiti was inhabited by the Hittites. I remember them from the Bible.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
So,
Great,
and that's supposedly where
Glad
Noah's
you're
Ark
here,
also
Eric.
landed. I know, right? So that, and then it goes on to when the first Americans came over, how it went from Saint Nick to Santa Claus, and got all changed.
Yeah, Santa Claus. I mean, you got to look at that. I don't know what the background is on that. I was going to look a little bit of that up today, but I got a little sidetracked.
yeah,
with
you
an
did.
eyeball. There's also a Scandinavian version. There's a version
Sinterklaas.
of a being that's a being that is this gift giver.
Yeah.
There's something good that happens. So what else did you read?
The other thing is that the Catholics took this opportunity to reward children for developing the virtues throughout the year, and that's why you have
That's where the list comes from.
That's where the list comes from, that Santa knows what's going on. And he knows who's on his naughty list and on his good list. And as I've seen on Facebook, there's that elf that's going around saying, if you pay me, I won't say anything.
Right. Yeah.
But it comes down to they wanted to reward the virtues that were being developed throughout the year, hopefully. The positive
Doggone
stuff.
control systems, I mean,
Right? But, and it hence starts the spoiling of children that Dr. Spock fought against. But, just reward the good and punish the bad, which is very judgmental.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, completely judgmental.
Yeah, the virtues. Interesting.
Patience, those wonderful virtues.
So you ready for the Siberian story?
I am ready for the Siberian story.
Because you were telling me that St. Nicholas came in and they were rewarding them and they were
Right.
putting gold in the socks that they hung by the fire, and that's where it started.
Right. Well, that's according to the Christian, because
Of course it
Saint
is.
Nicholas was actually, he was a monk and wound up going on to become this saint. So anyway, yes, tell us the story.
So in Siberia, the shaman, okay, would at this time of year, there's a mushroom that grows at the base of a fir tree that's red and white. Now, have you seen the pictures where you see it every once in a while? You see a mushroom that's got little white spots on it. It's red.
Well, I don't mushroom hunt.
No, on pictures.
Oh, in
In
pictures,
fairy
okay.
pictures. You'll see it a lot.
Okay. Yes.
So there was this mushroom that grew at the base of the Siberian fir trees, and they would come out this time of year. It would be this time. So the shaman would dress in red and white in honor of the mushroom.
Okay.
Okay. He would go out and gather these mushrooms. Now this is a story that's handed down.
Right.
We're not talking AD. We're talking BC. We're
right.
talking way before. So he would dress up in red and white, and he would gather these mushrooms, okay? And these mushrooms had a few properties to them.
Magic mushrooms, were
One
they?
of them was the hallucinogenic properties, right? And the other one was they were also very toxic.
Oh, lovely.
And what they found was the shaman would gather these things, and they would bring them back to the yurts, which are like a tent. You've probably seen a yurt, haven't you? It's got a hard base, and it's got a rawhide side, and there's a smoke hole.
Okay.
But it's got a solid base to it. Okay. Bring it back to the yurt, and they found out that they felt that when the shaman took these, because there are some vision questing things that happen, that the shaman would ingest these, would go on a trip, and they would go on a journey, and the journey was up the fir tree to the North Star, because at that time of year, the North Star was directly overhead.
Right, which is of course the star.
So
that the
now
wise
we've
men
got a
followed.
star. Now here comes the Christmas tree with the star at the
Right.
top, right?
Right.
Okay. So what they would do with the mushrooms is they found that if they dried them, they weren't as toxic. So they would put them in their socks and hang them by the fire to dry out the mushrooms so they could eat them and not die.
That's a good plan
Now
to
here's
eat
the
them and not die.
funniest part.
I
of the
never
whole
got
thing.
one of those in my stomach.
Did you? You got a mushroom. You go, cool, dude.
Now all these parents are going to be going out and buying red and white mushrooms.
Thanks, Mom. Thanks.
yeah. Woo! But they felt that this was a special gift, and that the shaman would then go on this journey and go to the North Star.
So what did the FDA do about all this?
Well, thank God they weren't around at that time. Here's the one that's really funny. Guess what animal thought these mushrooms were a delicacy?
The reindeer.
That's it.
There you go. So they went flying.
And they would get drunk on these things.
And then they got red
reindeer.
noses.
Yes, I
Flying
got the red
reindeer.
noses.
There you go.
Yeah, there you go.
So Christmas is one big shamanic journey.
Well, who wants to take credit for it? But I mean, look at the crossover in all of that. We got Socks by the Fire. We've got gold.
Candles,
We've got Asia
yeah.
Minor came out of Turkey. That's really close to Siberia.
Right. Right.
So, well, let's see. Let's take this story and let's shift it a little bit.
Okay.
And we'll make it work over here.
Right.
So that's interesting where all of that comes from, and brings
Yeah.
new meaning to Rudolph.
And
the
then of
red-nosed
course, and
reindeer.
then, right. And then of course there was, as you mentioned, the North Star, which according to the Bible story, is the star that the three wise men followed to find the baby Jesus. You know. So and was he really born with a bunch of animals in a barn? If there was no room at the inn, some front desk clerk really messed
Some
up.
funny-looking guy with a
I think
pack
it was
of
more like a
reindeer.
frat building or something.
Yeah, where they were serving mushrooms. Yeah.
Thanks, Mom. Thanks, Dad.
And you know they hung their stockings by the thing because they never had a washer or dryer.
Yeah,
They
that's
went
right.
somewhere.
You know?
Right.
So you get soggy mushrooms?
Right. Right.
Yeah, no. You know, but that's it's interesting to me that
Right.
that's how it comes. Now, last weekend we did that. We journeyed to the North Star
Okay, very nice.
and interacted with a spirit guide or teacher for gifts and blessings
Okay.
for this coming year, whatever, or for what has transpired this year.
And let's remind people the difference between meditation and journeying for those people that are listening for the first time.
Meditation is usually about stripping away the noise. It's
Yeah.
about making the mind go quiet so you can get to the inner core of who you are.
Yes.
There's a connection there. There's a crossover between the two. Shamanic journey is driven by an intention or a question. So I could say we're going on a journey, and the intention here is to go to the Siberian tree, and we're going to journey to the North Star,
Right.
and we're going to ask. It's the gas for
Right.
whatever's happening, and you take your consciousness and you literally leave your body
You leave your
behind.
body. Right.
Where in meditation, you're going inward and you're not going to leave anything
Well, and
behind.
that-
You're still here.
That also depends upon the meditations. There are meditations that I do that you very definitely leave your body. So those are the deeper, more intense ones.
Right. And
Yeah.
and that's what I'm saying. There's some cross connections
Yeah.
there, but the guts of a shamanic journey is literally going to the other side with the intention of leaving this reality.
Right.
We are going to the other side, and people will have the experience, you'll find out, that they're actually there.
Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely.
You've been on both.
I have.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you can make both of them happen at the same time.
Yes.
But I will bet you that on a meditation, that it's guided. The ones that have done
Right.
something so similar, that
Right.
it's guided. So there's that intention and that drive.
Right. And I have found that with the meditations, when I get to a certain point in it, that I do ask questions, and I find that I wind up receiving more answers. But that's, again, I think just because of what I do for a living.
And astral projection is people just go into a state and they just let their spirit go, and it just
yeah.
goes wherever it wants, and they
Yeah.
just kind of go on a free fly or whatever.
Free for all.
Now,
Yeah.
is it possible to come back from that if
Oh,
you
yeah.
do go on that? Like, I mean, without help. Let's say
Ooh, good question.
Yeah, you can. You can. And it's how you frame it. If you set the intention, I'm going and I'm coming back.
Okay.
So when I start teaching people about how to do a shamanic journey, I will have them start with a place in nature that they have been, that exists in this reality.
With or without the mushrooms?
Whatever you want.
Okay.
Anyway.
But they have to be dried.
They have to be dried. There's a sock hanging on a tree
So,
somewhere.
but do we have to go to Siberia for those red and white mushrooms?
I don't know. We'll find out. George is looking right now.
Yeah, right.
I got a couple right now. I've ordered those dang things.
Now I know
check
why
Amazon.
Now I know why you like the black microphone in front of you and always give me the red.
Yeah.
All right. So you talk about astral projection, that coming back.
Astral projection is just, as I understand it, and I think we all do it. It's letting your consciousness drift up above your body and just go where it wants to go. But there's no form to it unless you put a form to it. Shamanic journey has always been about, I'm going to see this teacher, I'm going to see that, I'm going to this place, I'm going to here, I'm going to get information. It's driven by this framework.
Okay.
And the sound of a drum or singing,
and
or
singing,
and using sound to leave this reality. And once you do it, and I have a suspicion you could do it really easy. And I'm usually on when somebody will walk in and I go, this is going to be work.
Right?
Now, what type of place would, I mean, is it made up in my mind that I go
It's
in
a
this
place you have, I want you to pick, the very first thing is to pick a place that you have actually visited, that you have been to, a lake. It's something in nature, because shamanism is very nature driven. Can be a tree in the backyard of your grandmother's house.
Yes.
It was crabapple tree.
Oh,
Yeah.
fine.
I've used a cave in off of the coast in San Francisco.
So someplace that you felt the first time when you were there, you were going, I could stay here the whole time. I'm safe. I'm protected. I could stay here the rest of my life and it would be fine. For me, it's the beach.
Yeah.
That's well, the first time I went to the beach,
It's different. When I do the shamanic journeys with you, it's different a lot.
Well,
Sometimes I'll pick the cave by the beach. Other times I'll pick the meadow up at Mount Charleston.
It's different once you get used to it. Once you get starting it, but for the very first time, we have people pick some place that they have been, because in shamanism, we look at the three worlds of reality. In this reality, there's this reality, and there's non-ordinary reality. In a non-ordinary reality, which is sometimes called the dream time. When you go to sleep at night, you're dreaming.
The
ordinary reality. It's kind of the term that doesn't have any attachment to it.
Yeah.
Okay.
But Aborigines called it the dream time. Celtic people called it the other world. It's anything outside of this reality that doesn't exist by these physical laws.
Right.
Okay.
We're letting them go. Okay.
So it exists in the spiritual. Now, would I be correct if I say spiritual world?
You could say it that. You could say that.
Yeah. I don't want to be incorrect with that.
No, there are no. See, that's the thing. The physical rules that apply to this reality do not apply over there. It's energy that's going to come in a form to you that makes total sense.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So, if you're raised Catholic, a lot of people that I work with that have been raised in the Catholic faith, they will see Jesus. They will have Mary will come to them. They will have one of the saints.
Well, you've even had a saint appear to you.
Yeah, when I was working with a dog.
Yeah, St. Francis of Assisi, patron saint of animals.
It's going to come in a form that's going to make total sense to you. It's a very individual thing.
Yeah.
So we pick a place in nature that you're very familiar with, that you feel safe in, okay? And and the drum's going, or I'm singing, or there's something going on, and you go there, and all of a sudden you're there. You might as well be there again.
Okay.
And then we say I want you to meet a teacher. Now there's the next step that I don't do in healing circles. I used to, but I found it was too complicated. So I've gone to just the safe place in nature or the inner garden.
I like the inner garden journey.
Inner garden's cool.
I really like that one.
When I teach shamanism, we typically start out teaching three worlds: lower world, middle world, and upper world. There's many more. Okay. The lower world is just a different place. It's not hell, but it's where denser energy is. It's where animal spirits tend to hang out. The middle world is the spiritual side of this world. So there's this room in this reality, and there's this room in the spiritual reality.
Correct.
That we can go to as well.
Okay. That I do understand.
Yeah. So if you were to pick a place, like I usually start out, I'm like Jane, I start out, sometimes I'm at the beach, sometimes I'm at a lake that's very close to my house, where there's a huge tree, and I start there, and then we go there, and it's like, this is home. This is my anchor. So that wherever you're taken or wherever you go, you come back the same way.
Right. And when you do that kind of stuff, you're going into a land of non-judgment. You know, there's nothing, I think most of the time, and I know you've had a few exceptions where people come back and are actually afraid, but that's been the exception rather than the rule.
Yeah, the other thing is in the middle world journeys tend to, since it's the spiritual side of this world, that tends to be where we find people that have crossed, they have passed on, and they haven't crossed into the light. That's where they stay stuck.
Right.
That's where they hang out.
And the Catholics would call that purgatory.
Yeah. Every religion has some.
They have a name for it.
Purgatory is when you're stuck in the middle.
Purgatory, I don't know what it means to the Catholics.
Yeah, it's in the Catholics. It is kind of a middle ground, and then of course the belief is that you have to say the rosary and do certain prayers to get them out. But it's also from some of my experiences, it's about learning. You're still learning on that side. You are getting shown a video of your life and how you have impacted people.
Okay.
Which is interesting because, in fact, like I said, I was just working with someone last night who had a loved one who had passed. And this person is over there, and it's been a year and a half, but you remember there's no time over there.
Right.
There is no time on the other side.
The time is always now on
It's
the
always
other
now.
side.
It's always now. But if you run into somebody who doesn't understand that they're dead, who doesn't understand that they were crossed over, that they haven't crossed over, they're still enmeshed in their personality in this reality, and it's this reality as far as they're concerned.
Okay.
Right.
So
I'm not too sure if help me out here. So if, let's say, example, my grandfather, he passed away when I was 10 years old. If I couldn't grasp the fact that, you know, he is passed away and he has been, you know, how would you say, given a gift to go into the next?
that it's going into the next level. Basically, if you want to put it in terms that are understandable,
Yeah.
it's going into the light. You've heard near-death experiences that people have had, and they say, oh, there's this light. And many people will say, I got closer and closer, and then somebody showed up. One guy said, my grandmother showed up and said, it's not time yet. You know. Now, there are no lines, there are no boundaries over there to speak of. There's just energy and how dense it gets and how light it gets, all right?
Okay.
And so when someone dies, if they think that they're still in this reality, they're still attached to the densest form of energy, which is this body,
Okay.
in this reality. So they're kind of connected. When they cross to the light, okay, parts of them can come back
Yes.
and give you messages. They can
Okay.
show up, but they're showing up, that energy of them, their spirit is showing up in your dreams, it's showing up in visions, it's showing up in a journey, it's showing up, it's different.
It's interesting.
It's very
It
interesting.
can show up as chills on the back of your neck, your hair standing up, anything like that. Boy,
Yeah.
did we veer off Christmas.
Did we? Maybe not.
Merry Christmas. There you go.
Right? Right?
No, but he asked some really good questions.
Those are great questions.
So let's talk about journeying. One of the journeys that I teach, since I'm very rooted in Nordic shamanism, is we journey to the world tree, the tree of life, the tree of wisdom. It's all part of all cultures. That tree shows up
Right.
somehow in some form.
It's in the Buddhist.
It's
It's in
everywhere.
It's in the Kabbalah, which is the Jewish mysticism. I know the Christians have the symbol of the tree of life because there were two trees. There's the tree of life and the tree of knowledge.
And at the base, in all mythology, there's the three sisters,
The
or they're
Fates.
called the Norns, or they're called the Fates.
Yeah.
And the Fates
That's
are
Greek,
called-
I believe.
I believe,
Fates.
yeah. Everybody had their own version of it, which is really interesting. So what I did is I took them to their safe place in nature. I didn't take them. They got taken to their safe place in nature, and when they got there, they were told that they were going to climb. There was a tree there. They would find this tree, and it would show up in some form, and it's interesting because everybody has their own form. It's very individual work. And they were told, you're going to climb that tree. And some people got an elevator and they went up, and some people literally climbed it, and some people had an eagle come down and take them to the top, and they weren't expecting that.
I
That would
think
be nice.
And then
think
when
I
we-
had the eagle.
When we got to the top, I had them look up, and there's the North Star.
Yeah.
So go
nice.
to the North Star.
I hope they don't make me walk.
Because he is walking across the United
Yeah,
States.
no, I don't think so. I don't think so. So those things happen, and then you ask questions, and a lot of times I will have them connect with a teacher, their own teacher and their own guide. Will show, and it'll show up in a form. It can show up in a form of light. It can show up as a shape. It can show up as a human form. It can show up as an animal. It just depends.
Okay.
And you can,
Yeah.
and that's your buddy, and you have some around you already.
Okay.
They've probably been whispering to you. Sometimes it's about tuning things up, like
Right.
George does on the board, so you can hear them.
Right.
Yeah, I thought I was just going crazy.
No. We're
Oh
already
man, are you
there.
in a good room?
You're in great company.
Honestly, when I was overseas, I heard my name, and I thought
Mm-hmm.
one of my buddies is calling my name, but in the military, they always use last names, so like Peters, McGuire,
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that. But when they start saying stuff like Peter,
Just
Eric.
giving you a demonstration there, see? All you do is just turn it up a little bit.
Yeah, there you go.
yeah.
So
Turn up the volume.
Right.
yeah, so they would say Eric,
Yeah.
over here, and I look and I say, who's calling my name?
Mm-hmm.
And
There's
I never,
nobody there.
yeah, well,
Yep.
there was, but they were looking at me like I had 10 different heads on, because it was quiet. But I would hear it in my ears.
Yeah.
I wanted to know what was kind of, like poking me.
Right. That's actually a spiritual experience. And that's partly the skill that I have, which is clairaudience. You've heard me talk about how I can talk to the angels and they answer me back.
Correct.
That's kind of what that is. And
Okay.
so I've had other friends that have had similar experiences with people calling their names and sometimes it can be really loud.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It gets
Oh, yeah.
soft, and then
Yeah.
if they get irritated because you're not looking that
Right.
way, like, hey,
Right.
Oh, the things fly off shelves.
Right.
And
Right,
like
lights
the person I was
flicker.
talking to last night, they had a fan that had not worked in years that all of a sudden started working.
Mm-hmm.
Huh.
They had a fire alarm that went off that had no batteries in it. They had
Yeah.
pictures that flew across the room.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is people will put it down, and a lot of people are afraid to talk about this stuff because they're going to haul you away,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
The funny thing is you don't know how many people will pull me off to the side and say, I had this really weird thing that happened.
Mhm.
They don't,
Right.
There's more of it that happens than not.
Because you and
Yeah.
I work in that metaphysical world. So to us, when people tell us that, we pretty much know what the scenario is going to be. And
I don't know if we know what the scenario is
but you
going to
know,
be,
but
but
I
I
mean,
believe
it's-
them. I always
Exactly.
meet people where they are.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Because if somebody's going to tell me, oh, the lights flicker, all that stuff, that's happened to me.
Oh, yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, I told a story on the show already where we had a light in the back room and we turned it off twice, or we had it up here and we turned it off twice, and then we unplugged it and the light in the back of the room went on.
Yeah.
30 seconds later. I mean, not even
Yeah.
30
Oh, yeah,
seconds
sure,
later. Just,
sure.
So
Hey.
that stuff happens, but it takes a tremendous amount of energy from that side to move anything in this reality
Yeah.
because we have this dense physical form.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
I
So-
completely understand.
And I
that.
actually think there's a lot of veterans, and you and I have had this discussion, and active military that experience these things. And this is not something you can say to
You
a
can't
vet to
medicate
vet.
it away.
No, you can't. You can't. Because
It doesn't work.
it's just not going to work. No.
No.
And then they wind up thinking they're crazy, and then someone like me or you walks into their life and they realize, oh.
Or what I love is the one, you're going to think I'm crazy. And I'm
Yep.
like, if you
Yeah.
only knew
Right.
who you're
Hello.
talking to.
Right.
You know?
Exactly. Exactly. And that has
Yeah.
been our experience.
Yeah.
So yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're here to let them know that, hey, if you want to talk about that kind of stuff, we get it. But your normal vet to vet counselor,
No.
right.
Believe me, I've been through that, and they
Right.
looked at me like I had 10 different heads on also.
Right. Right.
Now,
Exactly. But
this
see,
is-
now I think you just have 9.
there-
Okay, that's good.
this can be a whole nother show. We
Right.
can talk totally about, the path we're kind of wandering down here. When voice and talk therapy doesn't tend to work with PTSD
Okay.
because it's re-anchoring an existing experience that happened in the past and
Yep.
it's feeding it energy and it's rooting it in again.
So
That's the
absolutely.
simplest way to look at it.
That and when they are in these counseling groups, they're not clearing the energy, because some pretty traumatic stuff gets said in these groups when they're talking in that, and they're you and I know you need to go in and clear that energy so the next group of people coming in aren't going to be affected by it.
And the other thing that can happen in my world with drugs, we got funny little mushrooms under fir trees in
Right.
Siberia that people took
So
for
now all
parties,
of you
know?
in Siberia,
Yeah.
be careful of red and white
Yeah.
mushrooms.
Go to Siberia.
Yeah.
Oh,
On the
sorry,
list,
sorry.
Bucket list. George is already typing it in. He's
Right.
getting the plane
That's how
flight.
probably we got candy canes, I bet. Yeah. He's going
There
to
you
astral
go.
travel there.
If I walk out and there's a reindeer parked outside, I'm in trouble.
right.
I'll start looking for.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. Those forms. That's why other forms of therapy, like shamanic healing, like the alternative energies, work better with PTSD because they're not doing this thing where it's being re-anchored.
Yeah.
Re-anchored. They're not going back into the picture or medicating it, putting a blanket over the top of it so you can't see it anymore. So you'll probably feel better.
Right.
They're not pulling it out by the roots.
Because a memory is energy.
Yeah. What you
You
think
know?
is reality.
Right.
Okay. Question with that. You may not have to answer it. Completely fine, but
People are asking me all. I'm kind of stepping ahead of you here. People will say to me all the time, "Do I have to relive this in order to heal this?" And the answer is no.
okay. Very close, very close. I was actually gonna ask if is there a way to completely 100%, I won't say forget, but in order to make it go away, as if it would never have happened, and that in a sense of, in order to, for me, I look at it as living a normal life.
Sure.
Right now, I live a completely different life, always on guard.
Well, you take that first, and then I'll give an answer.
Okay. The answer is probably, can you totally forget it? Probably not.
Okay.
Okay. Just because of the studies they've done with the brain and neuroplasticity and the things that get formed in our head. Okay. Probably not. But what can happen is it becomes a book on a shelf that you used to read.
Right.
Okay.
That's the simplest way to describe it. So it doesn't drive you anymore. It
and
doesn't pop in when you don't want it.
So
So
there's no bookmarks in that book? That's a serious
maybe
question.
where you left off. I mean, I've got books on my shelf that have little bookmarks and pages and whatever. But you can't erase it out of what happened in this reality. Okay, but it doesn't have to drive your life,
and it doesn't
have to be part of the gas that gets you through this life. It doesn't have to be.
And with the pranic healing,
take the pain away.
The pranic healing is about taking out the energy of those memories, and it manifests not only in your brain but in your body in different areas. So it's about detaching from the energy of a memory. So, and it doesn't mean it didn't happen. It's just not an active piece of your brain anymore. So energetically, that's how the pranic healing works.
And I was also told with when and if about the soul retrieval, correct? Would this, I guess, intensify or almost...
The soul retrieval is about going and finding a part of your soul essence that detached from you because of a traumatic event. It was protecting itself.
Okay.
So let's take a car accident. Okay, that's the simplest. Everybody's pretty much in their life had a fender bender or something.
Yep.
Okay, high probability. At the moment of impact, you see it. You're driving down the road. You're screaming down the road at 70 miles an hour, and you go, "Oh my God, I'm going to be at the point of impact." Where does your spirit want to be?
In the safest place.
Not in your body.
Yep, not there. That's right.
I'd be running.
So
exactly.
It detaches. Okay, and these are in shamanic terms. It's the
Okay.
best way we can describe it. It detaches, and it's kind of like your brain. You know how certain parts of your brain, some parts are cognitive, and some parts do this, and some music lives someplace, okay?
Correct.
Your spirit has an essence, and that essence, you don't want to carve it into a pie, but there's a gift that usually goes with it. So sometimes I'll have somebody that will come to me and say, I just wish I had the courage to just do what I want. And I go to Spirit and say, what do we need so that so-and-so can get this back? And they'll say, we need to do a soul retrieval. There's a piece that was lost along the way.
Interesting.
And then we go get it and we bring it back and we integrate it. And things change.
Absolutely.
Because, she's had a couple. I've had several.
How significant is the change?
All the way from just changing your thinking, because sometimes changing your thinking will change your life. All the way to, I had a woman that came and had a soul retrieval, and she had wanted to leave Las Vegas.
Okay.
And she had tried and moved away, but came back, but her family kept pulling her back, and she was afraid if I leave, they're never going to talk to me again, whatever. We did a soul retrieval. And there's something magic about 2 weeks. It's like it takes that long. It's like a good stew. It takes that long for it to cook.
2 weeks.
So 2 weeks, and she called me. She had worked for Walgreens. She's probably listening, going, "Oh, she's talking about me." And she was a manager for Walgreens. She put in her transfer. I just put in the application to transfer and expected to wait a month or so to even just get acknowledged that she'd done that. She did that on a Friday. On a Monday, they came and said, we've got an opening in South Carolina.
Wow.
And on the following Friday, she called me and she said, the car's packed, the cat's in there, whatever, and I'm out of here. And she was gone 2 weeks.
Good for her.
Yeah.
So it can be that dramatic.
And for me, it was a feeling of my soul feeling whole.
She got a divorce.
Right, but I did. But it was also just a matter. It was also a matter of I just now feel that peace in my soul all the time. it may be crazy out there in the world for me, but I always feel peace.
And many times people say, can there be do I need more than one soul retrieval? You could have one and never need one the rest of your life, or you could need several. I'm on a healer's path. I've had like 8.
I think I've
And
had
it's
3.
like-
I think you've done 3 with me.
Yeah, but it doesn't mean I had to have 8 in order to be on a healer's path. It just means that I'm working that path, so things are coming up. I've had spirits give me a soul retrieval when I'm on a journey. That was a trip.
With the
So-
mushrooms?
Well, I don't know. Maybe they were there, and I didn't
think
know
the candy canes came from mushrooms.
You think so?
I do.
Well, anything red and white now. I can't look at anything.
Even that-
Since I know
either-
that story, look at that red and white.
Either that or they
clips on
came.
there.
Either that or they
Everything.
came from the barber pole. But
Right.
we're actually getting pretty close to running out of time.
Yeah.
So let's we
We're-
got
we're
5
good.
minutes. Okay,
Nobody's
so we've
coming
got some
on.
time.
We're the last show of the day today.
We are. George gets to go
Yeah.
party. By the way, there's an all talk party tomorrow night.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah. So these are all really good questions, and
Yeah.
I hear them all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it'd be good to ask, and for
Oh,
everyone
yeah.
who's listening, and even for myself, because I like to know more about it. With PTSD, some people are selective about how they want to get help.
Sure.
For me, I'm opening everything up.
Yep.
I'll try everything and anything.
See, when I work with PTSD people, I don't look at the PTSD issue itself. I just look at the whole person, because what I want to do is bring this person back to wholeness, whatever that takes.
Okay.
And there might be sometimes there'll be 2 or 3 parts that come back. And they're all kind of, it's interesting, because a lot of times if that happens, there'll be a common thread in all of them somehow.
Yeah.
But
Exactly.
it takes time, and the effects of a soul retrieval you will feel down the road, 6 months.
I
a
went
year.
I went horseback riding 2 weeks to the day of the last soul retrieval that I had, which is something that when that part of my soul left, it was the element of play.
Now, the other thing is that in answer to your question about can it ever go away, there is a situation where I think it can go away, and it's called curse removal, which I do, which that's removing somebody that's got a curse on them, or they feel like something isn't happening in their life. Or I've had people come to me and say, I can't get a break. I don't know what it is. Every time I start something, it just stops, and I can't get going, or, and not all the time in that situation, but one of the things that will come up is, we need to remove that.
Right.
There's something there, and sometimes it's from a past life, and that once that's gone, we can actually eliminate that.
So we've only got a couple of minutes left. So we're
Merry Christmas, everybody.
right.
Soul
So
retrieval,
let's
curse removal.
Eric, let's give out your Facebook page and
Yeah.
your mission.
All right. Well, for everyone who doesn't know who's listening today, my name is Eric Michael Peters. I'm a 101st Airborne veteran, Field Artillery Cannon Crew member. I'm walking across America from New Jersey all the way to Santa Monica, California, to raise awareness for PTSD and TBI. I'm also helping out veterans who have PTSD or who are
Yes.
homeless. And I have mass amounts of resources. Anyone who knows anybody who's having issues on the verge of the edge, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
I have a Facebook page called No Veteran Walks Alone.
And a website now.
Yeah, I found out
Yeah.
myself. Actually, you found it, Jane.
I did.
Yeah, you found
I
it,
did.
and then I thought it was you the whole
And I
time.
told you it wasn't me that built the website.
Nope. So yeah,
It wasn't me.
Not at
No,
all.
it's actually a beautiful site.
So you go next, because I'm done for the year.
Okay,
Nobody will
so
see me here
so
till
actually
next year.
next week we have no show here on All Talk
Right.
because George is going to shut down, and we're going to have Christmas music. So
And or shows running.
right,
Right,
So
either
I'm
one.
going to submit some of my favorite things, and then the following week after that we have Mary Rose
Who's
here,
going to join you?
who's going to join me because you're going to be in Canada.
I'm going to be in Canada. I'm out of
And-
here on next Monday.
right, right.
On that
And
plane
then-
that George has waiting.
And then
out
this
there.
Sunday, if we could also travel places and just
Yeah.
do it. Who needs airfare?
Who wants to go to Cali?
So there you go.
Yeah.
So I'm at Karmic Connections.
There you go.
On Rainbow and Warm Springs. And tomorrow, for anybody in the Las Vegas, Clark County area, the first meeting for the stand down at US Vets starts tomorrow at 9:30 in the dining hall. So if you're not doing anything at 9:30 and you want to come and get involved in stand down, that's 9:30 tomorrow, US Vets.
Right.
So maybe you'll show up. I know Eric's going to come. He's going to the VA hopefully on Thursday to do a talk.
Right.
Right?
So that's it for you?
I've got one more show. So
yeah, you got one more
I got
show.
one more show. So
This is-
everybody, we want you to like our Facebook page, Soul Chat.
And the other thing is that Merry Christmas to everybody and Happy New Year. And I'll
Yes.
see you next year. I'll be back
Yep.
on the 6th.
Yep.
Have a great time.
Everybody, please be
Love
safe.
each other. Hug
Yep.
each other. Watch out for mushrooms and reindeer in
And-
the forest.
Right. No trips allowed.
Have a great Christmas.
And we go out to Lainey singing.
Have
a
yourself a merry little
Have
Christmas.
yourself a Merry Christmas.
Our troubles will be out of sight. Have yourself a merry little Christmas. Keep the Yuletide gay. From now on, our troubles will be miles away. Here we are as in olden days, happy golden days of yore. Faithful friends that are dear to us, gather near to us once more. Through the years we all will be together, if the fates allow. Hang a shining star upon the highest bough, and have yourself a merry little Christmas now. Here we are as in olden days, happy golden